What's up? What's up? Comedian Leon the Jokester in the building. We're still doing our devotionals. We still got like two more videos to go. And then after that, we're gonna go ahead and shut it down for the day, man. But the pandemic has really opened our hearts and our eyes to a lot of stuff. And I just think that it's only right and only fair that we expose things and tell people the truth. Because one thing about America, bro, like right now, we living in a different time. And so I'm tired of people getting hurt and not having the full story or having answers. And so that's the reason why we do these videos, to kind of bring clarity to what isn't being taught a lot of times. A lot of times, if you're in something, you're probably not teaching the truth because you're in it. But if you stand outside and look in, you can actually see certain things that need to, be fixed or whatever. So this one's not going to be too long. I'm gonna get straight to the point. If Jesus, I've been doing this whole like, if Jesus was walking the earth in 2022, what would he do? Would he be pleased with what the church is doing, or would he be flipping over tables again? And so, this is the second video to the series, and so this one is why didn't Jesus Christ open a mega church? Why didn't Jesus Christ open a mega church? Well, first of all, you got to understand why he came in the first place, right? God the Father sent him to earth for people, for us to save the world, the lost world. It wasn't for him to build an empire while he was here. We're in the world, but not of the world. This earth is temporary. And Jesus Christ is like, yo, where I'm going is for eternity. It's forever. And so a lot of times, if we're not careful, we will try to establish many kingdoms here. If we're not careful, we'll try to build empires and legacies here for our family. Let's keep it real. Most mega churches there are operating under their, it's ran by the family. They're just trying to show you a level of nepotism under the business paradigm, which is, I build this empire, mega church. When I die, I pass it on to my family. Then they have the income, and then they grow up in the church, and then they take over the church. Then when they die, they give it to their kids, and it keeps that legacy going. But the thing about that is with 3,000 members, the people that win is the people that own that church. So if I open up my own church, if Michael Todd opens his own church, which he did, Transformation Church, Rhema, Kenneth Hagin, Victory, Paul Doherty, if everyone opens up their own church, the who benefits the most is the family that owns that church. It's their business. Because remember, I told you in the last video, there's a difference between biblical ministry versus business ministry. Once you turn what Jesus Christ said into a 501c nonprofit, at this point, you are operating under the business paradigm. Okay? So you can take things from Jesus, but you're not actually doing what he said, is laying your life down. Like, it would be like this. Let's say a pastor is asking people for offering 4 times a week, right? Wednesday night, Saturday night, and twice, 9 a.m. service, 11 a.m. service. That's 4 offerings a week. Okay. If the pastor tells you, have faith and give, yeah, giving heart, generosity, we give our last sometimes just because he said that. But he still gets a salary. What if we flipped it around and say, hey, let's take the pastor's salary away and let's see how he operates on faith? Because it's easy to operate on faith when you get $80,000 to $100,000 a year, plus housing stipend, plus credit cards, write-offs, taking pastors out to dinner, conferences, you get money for that. Mission trips, the church pays for that. It's easy to serve God when you live like a celebrity. When Jesus Christ said he even have a place to lay his head, Oh, I understand why the pandemic came now. God was tired. God was tired of how the church was operating. He needed to shake things up. God was tired of how the church was operating, and he wanted to shake things up. I didn't know it took COVID to shake things up, but it did. It opened up the eyes, because I believe that God cares about every human being, but watch this. God really cares about every new generation too. It's a new season. So think about the Generation Z, that's ages like 10 to like 25. That's the generation that the church has to pay attention to now, because that's the young generation. So if we are not careful, we will lose that whole generation. You know, you got youth conferences, all they care about is giving everybody pizza and games. Let's keep the attention of the youth. Then they leave and go off to college and live like Jesus Christ is flipping tables over in the megachurch, and we had no idea, because we have turned the house of God. God help us. God help us. So I close with this. This was going to be a short one. I close with this. Jesus Christ in the scriptures in the New Testament, remember when he was feeding with the disciples, he was feeding the 4,000 Jews, and then he went over and fed the 5,000 Gentiles. So that's 9,000 people that was fed fish and loaves of bread. Why didn't Jesus Christ tell Judas Iscariot at the time, who was the treasurer, you know, the one that betrayed Jesus Christ? He was his treasurer. Why didn't he tell him, go over there, Judas, and buy one of those synagogues, buy a temple, buy a church building? Why didn't he do that? Because you have to be aware of this. During the time of Jesus, there was synagogues, there was temples. What do we see today in 2022? Synagogues and temples. Why are we not paying attention to what Jesus said? Is because we turned what Jesus said do into a business. He said to go out and preach the good news to all people, right? Mark 16, verse 15, go into all the world and preach the gospel of Jesus Christ to every creature, right? That's the Great Commission. It's like to go out there and reach the world, right, with the gospel. But watch this. If we did it Jesus's way, he didn't go and buy the synagogue. He didn't go and buy the temple. So why in the world did these pastors go buy the temple, the synagogue, the church building? We've gotten away from the scriptures. We've gotten away from the plan, the original plan, not man's plan. Because man to come with a business plan. Look at my blueprint. Well, all we got to do is go to Bank of America and get the church loan, and we in there. We getting money every week. Jesus never told Judas Iscariot to go and buy the Catholic building, the cathedral, the temple, the synagogue, the church building. He never said that. Nowhere in the scriptures where you will find that Jesus Christ was the senior pastor of a synagogue. And I'm thinking to myself, if anybody's going to be a senior pastor, it's going to be Jesus Christ. What did Jesus do? He got into the boat. He backed up a little bit so there was enough room people could see him. He preached. I'm almost ready to challenge pastors to move to California and go preach on the beach. I mean, if I'm really trying to do what Jesus did, I understand he was, Sea of Galilee, Mediterranean Sea. I understand all that, Red Sea, all that stuff. Jordan River, everything's overseas. But what I'm saying is that here, if I'm living in America, I'm probably going to try to mimic what Christ is doing to a T, just to make sure, we're on the same page. So if I'm in California, they have a huge homeless skid row issue problem, homeless people everywhere. I'll be preaching. and then I'll probably be on the beach on a boat and preaching some more. And I think that if the disciples, if we were discipled, I think that we would have done more for the kingdom of God by just going out. Imagine 3,000 people going out, 5,000, 4,000, 1,000. Because they were able to fellowship together. They met in houses. Read the Bible. See, this is what happens when we only preach fragments and not the full story. In the early church, read Acts chapter 1 and Acts chapter 2. In Acts chapter 2, it just blows my mind. Like, a lot of times I get very emotional about Acts chapter 2. Because Acts chapter 2, verses 42 through 48, you will see that the early church sold all their possessions and they made sure there was no lack in the land. That would mean that today's time, 2022, if you're a Christian and you have 3 cars, you find out someone in the church needs help to get to work, you will let them borrow one of your 3 cars or just have it. But we don't do stuff like that. We'll be Christians with 3-car garage, 4-car garage, 5, 6 cars outside. Why? Because we're selfish. We're living a good life. Most mega churches, the members are living a good life. They have a nice 9 to 5. They have college degrees, and they don't have a problem coming in, hearing 3 worship songs, giving offering, and then hearing a sermon and then going home. They have no problem with that. But the minute someone is in desperate need of help, beyond just prayer and the scripture, that's when everybody's like, I don't know if we can help now. It's weird, bro. And then you wonder why people have left the church, been hurt by the church, and they've gone their separate ways. Beyonce used to sing in the church. Now where does she sing? The R&B group Jodeci used to sing right in the church choir. Now where do they sing? That's why I'm about to do this next video about spiritual gifts, how pastors just overlook people who have talent in the church and spiritual gifts. But nobody wants to talk about that stuff, bro. Christians get so offended. I'm a follower of Christ. John 14:6, Jesus is the way. Not one of the ways, but the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through him. You got to go through Jesus Christ to get to God the Father. And we're sitting up here thinking that Jesus Christ came to earth to open up synagogues, that Jesus Christ came to earth to open up mega churches, that Jesus Christ came to open up all these denominations. Why we got all these denominations? Why can't we just get along? You got churches, all they care about is 30,000 salvations and 40,200 baptisms, but nobody's there to discipleship. Do you know how dangerous that is to assume that just because someone says, I repented, I gave my life to Jesus, and there's no discipleship afterwards? That's like a chicken running around with his head cut off. No direction. I just know that I gave my life to Jesus on such and such day, but no one has been pouring into me. I go to youth ministry, it's pizza and games. I go into the young adults, it's just college stories about football and Super Bowl stuff. I go into the adult congregation, and then all I'm hearing is the pastor talk about his woes and his life and his family. When do we sit back and study the scriptures, bro? And give people the full gospel and not fragments. Excuse me. I'm done.